The first order of business and only action item on the agenda tonight is an ordinance withdrawing the nomination of the proposed Kenilworth Historic District. Any comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I mean, since it's been withdrawn, and now, why are we even doing this? Seriously, why are we doing this?
We entered into the state through an ordinance, and to withdraw that, Trustee Hughes, we should execute an ordinance withdrawal.
Did they request that we do this through ordinance? That we have a request from ESAC to do this through ordinance? I mean, this seems to be redundant, that's all.
After all the discourse and divisiveness and rhetoric that has gone on since early this year, Trustee Hughes, I think it would be poor judgment for this board not to go ahead and execute the ordinance withdrawing the original filing.
Even though we really don't need it.
No, I think we do need it.
Well, do they think we need it? I don't want to do it here. Although, if you want to comment, I think the second part of the ordinance, which looks like it's restricting information to be used, I think, I don't agree with that. And I tell you why, because I think it will lead to confusion if other people would like to use the same information. I don't think you can copyright history. And so I have no problem if someone says they can't use the whole nomination as such, although I don't even know if it was copyrighted like that. I don't have a problem with that, but what I'm concerned about is let's suppose people living in the east side or west side want to have a district for themselves. You know, they can do that. And I want to make sure that a lot of the information is going to be the same. And I don't want people to say, well, you can't do that because we passed an ordinance. It just doesn't make sense. The referendum, and I find the referendum was that overwhelmingly that we should not nominate the whole district. That's fine. But when people want to do it themselves, I want to make sure that they're not, someone can't say, well, you can't use that information because it was all in our nomination. That's all. It's nomination, it's information that we did generate, paid for by the village, but it's also in the sense of property taxpayers. And I just want to make sure if someone tries to do that, we don't get a bunch of legal hassle based on past experience. That's all. So I have a lot of problems with that part of it.
Right, and I would agree with Jim on that because the information is the same. I mean, it's not gonna change the addresses, the types of houses, and unless they're torn down or something, it's gonna be the same information. A lot of it hasn't changed in 100 years.
Well, let's go ahead. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance, and then we'll have.
I would like to have some discussion too.
Well,
Yes, I make a motion to approve the ordinance as it's been presented to us.
okay, there's a second. All right, discussion.
I would like to discuss, I mentioned at the special meeting last time to you, Gilbert, that the ordinance, I could understand the ordinance somewhat. I think it is a little redundant. Nevertheless, that's my view. But there were several whereases, and the withdrawal, the way it's written, I could not accept it. I told you that last week.
Well, and I went back and looked at that, and everything that I saw there was factual. So
Well,
that's.
I could add a lot more facts to it too, if I wanted to. It's not a question of facts, it's a question of withdrawing the ordinance. And I feel that some of this stuff is unnecessary. I think it's sort of adding some salt in the wound type of thing.
I think it's a little bit late for salt in the wound, Trustee Terrell.
I just expressed, I told you last week I couldn't support it.
I
I'm not supporting
understand,
today.
and so I went back and I reviewed it, and so show me where something is wrong here. Did 80% of the registered vote in the village? I think so, by a margin of nearly 2 to 1. Is that not true? You know what's wrong here?
It's not a question of truth. It's a question of how it's being written. And the
Oh, really?
Well said.
Really?
Please. Okay. So, okay, then what is the truth that you want eliminated?
Tobert, I don't want to eliminate truth. I want it to be written in a way that it's acceptable. And it's acceptable, I have my choice of whether it's acceptable or not. I like the first whereas, and then the rest of it is unnecessary. And then the last part of the withdrawal, I think that it's too restrictive for anybody that could want to, maybe, as Jim said, maybe want a street or two, might want to have a small district of the village. Why should they not have access to this material?
My own comment, I believe my understanding after reading all the ordinance, after reading many, many.
Why don't you use the mic, please?
After reading many, many ordinances that we have passed, having nothing to do with this, my understanding of the purpose of the whereas is to give a little explanation. So if somebody were to go back and read this ordinance, they might understand it. So to your point, Tom, there is much history that is not included in these whereases. On the other hand, if someone wanted to say, okay, so this is an ordinance withdrawing the nomination, why did the village do this? The 4 whereases or 5 whereases that are listed here explain that. The first one says, we nominated the village. The second one says there was an advisory referendum. The third one says that 80% of the village voted. The fourth one says by a margin of 2 to 1, the residents voted against it. And so the fifth one says, in light of the sentiment of the voters, the trustees withdrew it. There's lots more information you could do it, but I think the purpose of the whereases is to simply give a history of why are the trustees taking this step. So I don't know why we wouldn't include those whereases, and I actually think they probably will answer a number of questions going down the line later if somebody were to go back and read this. In regards to the withdrawal information, we had quite a bit of conversation about this at the last board meeting in terms of how this would be used. And we talked about the fact that we didn't want this to be used for another nomination. If somebody else wants to do another nomination, they can do so, just as the history of Kenilworth exists, and just as our consultants use the Historical Society resources to create this. If somebody wants to do another nomination, they can use this as background and research, just as they can use lots of other information at the Historical Society for background and research. But in no way do I think any other district should ever be able to lift information from this document into a new document. And I think that's what this is saying. This is saying that if somebody else wants to use this, any related material submitted by the village and its consultants in support of any nomination of the same or similar proposed Kenilworth Historic District can't be used. That's basically what we're saying. We're saying it is there as historical information for our residents. Absolutely wonderful. And if somebody else wants to do another nomination, as Jim is potentially proposing, that will be their business, and they can go through the process the same way our consultants have in terms of using this for great information.
I mean, it would also seem to me that most consultants that do their work want to have their work protected, and not just have the work taken by someone else and used without compensation. And I think I agree with you. I think everyone has a right. Again, I would just hope that after tonight, there's not, some resident takes this work product and submits it the next day, and then we're back to the races. Because I don't know that this village can take this again and again and again. And I think that's part of what we're talking about here. Look, someone has a right. If someone wants to hire Susan Benjamin and Ted Hill to nominate an area, a house, a street, and all those people get together to do it, terrific. They should pay for that. But the facts are the facts. You're absolutely right. Houses are the houses, the street numbers, the history is the history. But when you package it up, it becomes a work product of a consultant. And if I'm the consultant, I'd like to get paid again.
But the way this reads, the consultant couldn't get paid again for the same, the consultant couldn't use the same information. That was the point that was made earlier.
I guess I don't
And
need
the
that.
information is gonna be the same in a lot of cases. The written part would not be the same, obviously. You would have to rewrite the written part, but the forms that are tables would be almost identical to what's in there now, no matter when you did it in the future, unless the whole village was redeveloped. So that's the issue here.
The tables, explain to me
The tables are the listings of contributing and not contributing properties. They list the address, the style of the home, and whether it contributes to the historic character of the district or not, basically.